I want to do food where people that grew up with it eat it and go, wow.
I would have never expected at this point the world of New Orleans would be still in this state.
What's the name of that one? It's a lot of money to just lose, you know, or we can put in more and give it a shot and hope that it works.
It is springtime in New Orleans.
It's great ball control, babe.
The guy with the beer in one hand and the crawfish in the other is Donald Link, one of New Orleans' most loved chefs.
I mean, listen, I really think that he's the most gifted chef. I mean, one of at least the top 3 gifted chefs in town, if not the most gifted. And I think everybody in town feels the same way.
Well, we can't tell the corn is fine. Leave the corn out.
Donald is 5th-generation Cajun.
I'm partial to Cajun food because I grew up with it. I mean, that's my food. That's my home food. You know, that's what I eat. Well, you could probably get that up.
On this Sunday afternoon, he's throwing a crawfish boil on the banks of the Mississippi for the people who work in his restaurant. There's nothing fancy about any of it.
Oh my God, they're so good.
But a springtime crawfish boil is almost a sacred ritual in Cajun culture.
I had no idea that it was such a regional thing. You know, the way we ate at home and the way my grandfather cooked, I just thought that's what people did.
Donald was born and raised in Acadiana, a swampy area southwest of New Orleans that was settled first in the 18th century by French exiles from Nova Scotia, then by Germans.
And all the cultures that are there just really melded.
Cajun food draws from French and German. It is hearty and heavy, made only from what was available to poor farmers.
Rice, crawfish, and pork. I mean, most of Cajun food is made up of that. Cracklins, boudin, étouffées, crawfish over rice, you know.
It's very casual. It's a rustic sort of a food.
All I know is I eat it.
Even though it's rustic and it's simplified, it's not simple-minded by any stretch of the imagination. It's still very complex.
The pepper seasoning is pretty good. Now, the salt and stuff, some people like more salt, some don't.
You can only get real home-style Cajun food in Cajun country. Donald wants to dress it up and bring it to New Orleans.
You know, I want to do food where people that grew up with it eat it and go, wow, that's great. You know, that's the people I want to make happy.
For a year and a half, he's been working on the idea. He's found 2 partners and $1 million to open a new restaurant in the warehouse district of New Orleans. It will be called Cochon. That's French for pig.
I mean, I can't wait for him to open. I mean, I have selfishly been pushing him to do this because I want this restaurant to exist in this town.
He wants the look to reflect Cajun culture, rustic, but it will have a contemporary edge. Everything will be from scratch, down to the chairs.
I think they look great. It's perfect. Just what we wanted.
Cochon will be very different from Donald's famed New Orleans restaurant, Herb Saint, a fine dining experience that has earned him praise from Gourmet, Food and Wine, and the New York Times. At Herb Saint, Donald added Southern flavor to classic French cuisine.
And the combinations of textures and flavors that he incorporates, his food is absolutely outstanding.
It is a bold move for any chef to open a new restaurant while trying to maintain the success of another. Donald knows he could blow it all.
Well, my biggest fear is having 2 restaurants flop. But, you know, it's a tricky balance for having a restaurant here and taking care of this one and making another one successful.
Donald plans to open Cochon in 6 months. But 2 weeks into construction, New Orleans is struck by Hurricane Katrina. More than half the city is underwater.
I left Saturday before the hurricane with the clothes on my back. That's it, not even a toothbrush.
More than 1,200 people die in Louisiana. Donald Link's plans for a new restaurant will have to wait.
I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Like, what are you gonna, and you know, and of course people are asking me, so what are you gonna do with Cochon? I'm like, I don't know. My impression was it's just going to be a bunch of construction workers that are going to have to sell hamburgers to.
In New Orleans, Chef Donald Link has grand plans to celebrate authentic Cajun food at a new restaurant called Cochon.
I want to do food where people that grew up with it eat it and go, wow.
But in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, he has no idea what to do about his new restaurant.
I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Like, what are you gonna, and you know, and of course people are asking me, so what are you gonna do with Cochon? I'm like, I don't know.
2 weeks after Hurricane Katrina, Donald decides he has to go back to New Orleans to see what he has left. News reports say it is unsafe.
I started getting irate about not being able to get into the city. You know, it's like, this bullshit, man, that's my house, that's my business, you guys, you know.
Authorities make it almost impossible.
Please get out of my way and let me go check on my home and my business and start getting it put back together.
His neighborhood and house are destroyed. But the area of the city where his restaurant, Herb Saint, and where Cochon is supposed to be, suffers only mild damage. They begin the ugly job of cleaning up.
I mean, there's trash everywhere. I mean, there's a pile of trash on the side of Herb Saint that's, I mean, 80 garbage bags that we have to run people down to pick up. There's a refrigerator full of rotting meat on the sidewalk. And then when I finally pay all those guys to come get it and get it cleaned up, then somebody else comes along and drops another 50 bags of rotten meat on my sidewalk. Wasn't real happy about that.
It takes him only 4 weeks to clean up the mess and cut the massive amounts of red tape to reopen.
2 andouille on deck, 2 meatloaf, una remolacha.
It is a huge gamble. The city is only beginning to come back to life.
You know, my impression was it's just going to be a bunch of construction workers that are going to have to sell hamburgers to. We actually wrote a menu for Herb Saint hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, you know.
This isn't the case. New Orleans is hungry.
People are starved for, A, something to do, a sense of community. I mean, when Herb Saint first opened, people were in there hugging and kissing. It was like a cocktail party every night because they know, people were so glad to see each other.
Cochon stands still. Donald wishes it had never happened.
We were exploring the options on how to get out of it, if there was a way to get out of it. I mean, we spent, you know, maybe 1/3 of our investment we'd have lost.
He realizes there is no turning back.
It's a lot of money to just lose, you know, or we can put in more and give it a shot and hope that it works.
And so the clock is reset. Cochon, Donald Link's tribute to his roots, is now scheduled to open in 9 weeks.
These pictures here are from the Crowley Eunice area, the settlement of the...
Front and center, Donald wants photos of his clan featured in this space. His designer, Brooks Graham, thinks they're worth their weight in gold.
This would be my granny, my dad's mom here, and that's the family. I mean...
How did these make it through Katrina?
Well, when I heard that the levee broke, I immediately drove down here and snuck in and got them out of the house before it flooded. It was a harrowing experience. Like that, or you want me to tell the truth?
I think CNN did a piece on that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Actually, these were actually in the office here, so we got lucky because everything at home was trash. These were not in my house.
To update Cajun food and give his restaurant an edge, Donald has ordered a massive wood-burning oven.
It's different, you know, I mean, you get tired of just doing stuff on pans.
He's going to do everything in it, from rabbits to oysters.
It'll just blow them out of their seats. And I think the novelty and the fact that it's so unique, it'll be so unique, with having that big open oven with grilling the crabs and all the, you know, the different things that he's going to be cooking in there, I think will be a huge draw.
This is a whole different way to cook. You know, it's a whole other method that most, you know, a lot of cooks never get to do. It's a fire into a corner, and that's it. Like I said, we could hook this thing up before we ever open, and play with it.
The opening can't come quick enough for Donald. New Orleans is short on labor and short on patience. The little things have become difficult.
So these are more on the blue and gray tones.
Today, the designer wants Donald and John Orgon, the building owner, to pick a paint color for the exterior.
Did you have one in mind that you like more than the others?
I don't know.
Since the storm, John's been unable to focus. He's depressed. He hasn't shaved in months.
It's been a while. I was expecting things to be completely different than where they were. I thought that at this point, 5 months later, 4 months later, whatever it is, that there would be I would have never expected at this point the world of New Orleans would be still in this state.
What's the name of that one?
Indian rhubarb. I was thinking a lighter gray, and not as maybe tone it down a little bit. Maybe closer to this one.
Opening night is 4 weeks away.
It's going to be done because it has to be. Hey, whatever it takes at this point, we're going to get this finished.
In New Orleans, Chef Donald Link has taken the gamble of his life.
Well, my biggest fear is having 2 restaurants flop.
He considered abandoning his plans for a new Cajun restaurant after the hurricane, but he'd already sunk $300,000 into it.
It's a lot of money to just lose, you know, or we can put in more and give it a shot and hope that it works.
It is now only 3 weeks till opening.
This is where all the hot stuff goes. This is where the refrigerators go.
Donald knows exactly what he wants. The problem, like everywhere else in New Orleans, is to get people to work and keep their commitments.
My concern right now is to finish all the construction issues, because I don't want any of that holding me back. We're going to talk to John about the windows. His people quit on them and moved with no notice. I think 1 day's notice, and just left the windows.
As building owner, John is responsible for everything on the exterior. His people have slipped every deadline.
They're backed up and they're delayed, and they took a long time anyway, before the storm. So that's scaring the hell out of me. Did you find carpenters? Finish the windows?
Interviewed a couple and couldn't hire them. They just weren't competent enough to take care of and handle the work that needs to be done, so.
Donald set a deadline to open in 2 weeks, whether John is ready or not.
It's going to be done because it has to be. Hey, whatever it takes at this point, we're going to get this finished.
1 week before opening, Donald's kitchen isn't ready at Cochon, so he's over at Herb Saint working on his boudin, the signature Cajun sausage.
Boudin, which is one of my favorite Cajun dishes. Traditionally, I mean, it's hard to find boudin unless you go to Cajun country, and you really end up going to a gas station or a stand.
Okay, so exactly measure out about this much salt.
He's going to be bringing what is a simple country food to a fine dine restaurant with a fine dine price on it. Is that going to work? Are people going to be willing to do that? I don't know.
His recipe is from the German side of his family. Until now, it's been kept in the family.
And they make this at family get-togethers, but they've never actually sold it.
So nobody can steal it. He's scratched out his grandmother's secret ingredient.
Everyone's is always the best. My mama made it the best. My auntie made it the best. Everybody has their own unique way of putting it together, and they all claim that theirs is the best.
And then I realized that the way I season my food is directly related to what I grew up with. So this is the juice. Look at that.
You can make boudin any number of ways, with pork, with liver, with seafood. Donald's is just with pork, rice, and seasonings.
It's really good. I mean, what I like about it, it's just what I said. It's simple and not a lot of extras, bells and whistles to it. It's a very simple, deep flavored pork sausage.
Each one has a very distinct flavor, and it's so much fun to try each one and make notes. It's like wine.
Donald knows his boudin is as good as it gets.
So herein lies the problem with out-of-towners eating this, is you can't really eat that casing.
He also knows that alone won't make Cochon a success.
That's probably what's really at stake here, more than, you know, money or my reputation or anything. It's just that I've put so much into it that if it didn't work, it would be like, that was a big, big waste of time.
See, if everybody in New Orleans would just do a little bit of this, we can clean this city up a lot faster.
It is springtime again in New Orleans. As the city rebuilds, there is cause to celebrate. But Donald Link doesn't have time for that yet. In just 8 hours, he'll open the doors at Cochon, his new Cajun restaurant that he almost abandoned.
You know, I had the option after the hurricane to not do this. And, you know, I question that sometimes. Like, all right, oh, what am I doing? I mean...
Donald's menu is practically an homage to the pig.
They're doing it the way my grandfather did it, you know, and not holding back, you know, ham hocks and bacon and pork and, you know, I mean, we're just laying it on.
Donald has to stay focused. He can't do anything about the chaos outside. John decided on an ornate brick sidewalk, and it's nowhere near ready. John's not around because he's marking the opening in his own way. There's still some last-minute hustling. 3 hours to go, and there's no liquor license yet.
We just got our health permit today, and we're trying to get our liquor license. And I was told that I had to have the state license first, and the state is telling us we have to have the city license first.
2 hours to go. Donald has to leave his kitchen. The city hasn't collected the trash or cleaned the streets. He's so short-staffed, he has to do it himself.
See, if everybody in New Orleans would just do a little bit of this, we can clean this city up a lot faster.
But Dino arrives with a mountain of shrimp he's just caught.
About 3 hours ago we caught them, and they're already here. They're gonna be fresh tonight to eat.
And for John, the transformation is now complete.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was a year ago when Donald began to work on Cochon. He never lost sight of his vision of a rustic but contemporary space to celebrate his heritage and the flavors of his youth. It's taken $1 million and a huge amount of determination to get this far.
Cheers. Mr. Cochon.
The brick sidewalk isn't done, so people have to come in the back door.
How you doing? Hey, good to see you.
But the liquor license has arrived and the oven is hot.
2 crawfish, 2 boudin.
The oysters are roasted in the oven with garlic butter and served on rock salt.
They're great.
There are fried chicken livers on pepper jelly toast.
It's quite original and wonderful. I really like it.
Rabbit oven roasted with dumplings.
It was so sexy, and I loved it.
Love the decor.
This has got to stop, like, immediately. I can't read these tickets.
It's almost rustic.
They didn't try that out before I got my first ticket?
Donald's done spicy grilled pork ribs with watermelon pickle and decided to fry boudin balls rather than serve it in its casing.
It's wonderful.
To our first meal at Cochon. Absolutely. Awesome.
For Donald, this moment has been a long time coming.
Cheers. 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 Good night.
Oh, there he is.
Buddy. Come here, guy. Come here. Come here.
That's a good boy. That's a good buddy boy.
Here's another piece. Come on.
There you go.
Find more at fineliving.com. Real information for real people.